Well, hey everyone, welcome back to my little gardening show. I wanted to kind of redo this video. I tried live streaming and it kind of, something was messed up with it. Anyway, we're down in the grow room and I just finished potting up Bob Jr. Kind of the story with this. So there was a lady I worked with. Her name was Barb, and she was a former owner actually of the company I work for, and just continued working. Her husband had kind of passed away tragically, just had exercised and then just wasn't feeling well. I think laid down on a couch and then ended up having a massive stroke. And then, yeah, basically, wasn't shortly thereafter he passed away. And anyway, she continued to work at the company all the way up to about 2 weeks before she passed away. And she had this plant that she named after him, named Bob, that she would take care of. And then when she would be on vacation, we would put the little fertilizer sticks in it and try to tend after it and whatnot. And the plant is still alive. It's been there for years. And so a couple of us took cuttings off of it. So my little cutting had actually been in this mug just filled with water for like several months. And I just never got around to potting. I just kind of left it, and it's kind of struggled along. But I thought, I'm going to take this thing home, go ahead and pot this up in a little mug here. And so I did. That's what I just got done doing. I think it's going to like everything I put in there. I got some potting mix, some worm castings, some Gaia green dust, and a little bit of azomite. It's all mixed together. And so the thing is potted up. I'm going to leave it here in the basement for, a couple days. We'll see how it's doing on Monday. Maybe I'll take it back to work on Monday. Or just leave it here, let it kind of be under the grow lights and kind of maybe a little bit better environment until I take it back. And we'll just see how it does. But anywho, I don't know. A lot of times when I'm, gardening or planting things, messing around, a lot of times, there's like some, it's instructive, right? I mean, the soil is good for you. There's studies that show that when you play in the dirt, it actually, the microorganisms that are in it and all the stuff there, it actually evokes like a chemical response in your body, from what I understand, and it makes you happier. So anyway, but it's also instructive, right? Where you start thinking about life and thinking about things. And I'm a person of faith. I don't share a lot on this channel. I'm pretty unassuming in general, but there's a passage in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It's written by Solomon, who is known for his wisdom. And it's basically, it's this passage about, there's a time for everything. And as you're reading through, there's a verse there, I think it's the second one, it talks about how there's a time to plant and a time to uproot or pluck up. And that's true. There's times where, you're supposed to be planted, maybe put down some roots, be in a certain place at a certain time for a certain season. But then there's times where then that it's time to move on, or it's time to be uprooted, right? Or sometimes things need to be uprooted, right? To make room for new things, or, to be transplanted, into another environment or whatnot. There's a lot of applications or a lot of ways you can, take that or apply that. But from my experience, it seems like, I'm pretty steady Eddie. Will stay in a place for a long time. It takes a lot to move me, I guess. I'm not easily moved or shaken, so to speak, which is can be a really good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, where maybe I stay in a situation or linger in a place or circumstances too long, and don't recognize the signs, or maybe miss out, or could have made a decision earlier. I guess motto is, I tend not to make a decision until I have to, which again is good because I'm not like impulsive or anything like that, or I don't make hasty decisions. But usually when I do make a decision, or we've made a decision, it's like, that was well overdue. you know. Um, so anyway, I mean, right now things are going, pretty decent. Nothing crazy, but there are a few things where we're kind of mulling over, kind of what to do, and trying to discern the season, and like, so it's, how do you know when it's time to move on, or how do you know that? How can you discern when kind of the season of your life's changing? And there's a variety of things. I mean, it's not like it happens in a where you have no idea whatsoever, but sometimes it can be, um, pretty sudden because there's something traumatic, or something that triggers a chain of events. I know that happened when we moved to Ohio. My mom had passed away, which triggered just a lot of different things that led us up to making a decision to move and relocate from Indiana. Um, and then there's other times where it's just slower, where you just know, like, um, you either just don't want to be there anymore, or like just things are real dry. Um, you've kind of moved on in your spirit before you actually moved physically, if that makes sense. And that's kind of how it was even a couple years before things happened with my mom that caused us to move over here, that just our circumstances were such where I was in some ways kind of checked out, because I didn't know really how to cause a change, or I don't know what the deal was. There were just some things that were dysfunctional, I guess you could say. And so it took a little while for everything to kind of align, before we made a move, or made a decision to pursue something else, and start heading in a direction that I think the Lord wanted us to move in, right? So sometimes it's circumstances, right? Well, things just are drying up, or you're just not engaged anymore with what's going on because of the circumstances, or there's things that happen that where you have to make a change. And at other times it's more subtle, like a slower shift. A lot of times you just have to kind of wait and see, and pray through that. Sometimes it's obvious, other times it's not so obvious. But one thing that's kind of cool, as a um, believer in Christ or as a child of God, right? It talks about how, God's created us in Christ Jesus to do good works, which He's prepared in advance for us to do, that we should walk in them. And so the idea is that there's the idea of God's sovereignty, or, the reality of that. And you're not going to miss those divine appointments. If there's a purpose that He intends, He has a way of creating circumstances to bring you there, as a way of leading you in the way you should go, by steering your heart, planting those thoughts, whether it's through conversations you have or through reading the Word, or whatever it might be. He has a way of moving us along. And He's a gentle shepherd, right? He's a good shepherd. And He's patient, lowly in heart, so to speak. So so we can trust that. So I don't know what y'all are going through. In winter, you've got a little more time to reflect on things, because your outdoor activities are limited. But maybe you're kind of wrestling with that right now and trying to figure out, what to do, given your circumstances or situation. And maybe you haven't come quite to the decision yet, but you can be sure that if you look to the Lord and whatnot, He has a way of leading us and kind of directing our steps, right, as we're bringing Him into our decision making, casting cares upon Him, and just kind of waiting with Him. And sometimes, again, it can be a really long time. One thing I found too, it seems like my better half, my wife, she's got a little more discernment or keyed in to that stuff, and can kind of pick up on it before I do. And she just kind of has learned to wait, and undoubtedly, things will work out where I'm on the same page, right? So yeah, that's kind of talking in kind of real general, high level in that regard. Again, personally, things are going pretty well on the job front, but there's some things on the horizon we're kind of sensing, we're feeling, discerning that there could very well be a shift, a change of seasons, and which may result in being moved, transplanted, or whatnot, where just circumstances change. And so we're kind of just patiently enduring right now a couple things, and just kind of waiting to see, and waiting on the Lord, not presuming upon Him, but kind of bringing Him into the decision making, and then trying to stay in step with His Spirit, and his timing's perfect, and so there's no worry there. But that's just kind of, again, in general, kind of what's been on our minds here lately, and kind of occupying my thoughts. So I don't know if you guys can relate to that. Hopefully you can. But for now, we're just kind of hanging out, playing around in the grow room. These microgreens I planted about 5 days ago, and so they're coming along pretty nicely. There's still a fair amount of seed husks that in here. I'm letting these root down before I brush them real hard, right? We'll give them a couple more days, probably about Sunday. By this Sunday, these will be ready to harvest. I probably won't water these again. We'll just let this kind of run its course and let these dry a little bit, so that when we cut the greens, they're pretty clean, pretty dry, so that they'll last longer. And then we'll keep tabs on Bob Jr. here and see what happens. There may be a little bit of transplant shock because it's used to being in just straight water. So we'll see what happens when we check on it tomorrow. Other than that, I appreciate you guys. Those of you who prayed for my dad, he's doing well. He was in the hospital 2 weeks ago. I guess when the big snowstorm hit was when he was hit with some, health issues and stuff. And then he was with us for about a week. He went home yesterday morning and seems to be doing well. We'll probably be keeping closer tabs on him, But anyway, he's on the mend. And assuming everything else goes well, probably within 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be back to, 100%, everything healed up. In the meantime, he's supposed to be taking it easy. Hopefully he doesn't overdo it between now and then. But he's doing well. So, anywho, I guess that's it for now. Until next time, happy gardening. Bye.